Vice President, thanks for your time. Your visit to South Africa, can you briefly tell us the purpose of the visit?
Well, essentially it's a private visit, but as you know, in the nature of these things, there are some official aspects of it as well. I'm attending a convention, it's called the Pan-African Prophetic Conference. It's a convention of various pastors and reverends from across Africa who are meeting in Brakpan for what is called a prophetic conference. The focus, of course, is on Africa and on praying for the continent, and also for looking, in some senses, at how the continent will shape up, especially in terms of collaboration between the denominations, the Christian denominations, and other faiths as well. So that's why I'm here. But of course, I'm also doing a few official things. We'll be at the Nigerian Embassy today, commissioning a consular office. And I've also had an opportunity to speak to both the President, President Zuma, and the Vice President. And of course, our relations are so important that it's even a private visit would involve a measure of trying to see where we're at on several issues. So that's why I'm here.
You touched on the meeting with Vice President, or in this context, South Africa Deputy President Ramaphosa, but also our President Jacob Zuma. Yes. Previously, people had a perception that, or there were perceptions that the relations between South Africa and Nigeria are frosty. As a new administration, how are you going to ensure that we address these perceptions?
Yes. Well, I think the major way of addressing perceptions is by doing what needs to be done. That is correcting the reality. The reality, of course, is now that between President Buhari and President Zuma, excellent relations, and I think that they have found common ground on several different issues. And one of the critical things is that there is a chemistry, and that's very important in these relationships. There's a chemistry. I think both of them are very optimistic about the way that relations will go. They're very optimistic about cooperation. And I think that there's also a general sense that they can work together. And that's very, very important. And you will see, I'm sure, in the next few weeks into months that that will be the case. My perception is that they're going to do very, very well together. And we're looking forward in the next, very soon, to a visit from President Zuma. And of course, there'll be reciprocal visits and all that. But I think that relations will certainly be much better than ever before.
Let's look at Nigeria, the new administration. The vision of the administration. What are your priorities currently as the new leadership of that country?
Priorities, first of all, security. We have to deal with questions of security. Secondly, the economy. And of course, we're looking at issues of governance, corruption, and all of the various issues of governance. But security in the Northeast is priority. We're concerned, of course, about bringing an end to the insurgency, and not just the military aspects of it, but more the aspects of it that have to do with the minds of people and reorientation, even of those who have been involved in this insurgency one way or the other. And then, of course, we're concerned about what has happened with education, especially in those areas, education, family life, infrastructure. We have to rebuild in the Northeast. And generally also, we have to deal, of course, with the questions of the economy. As you know, there is a slowdown across the world, and we have also been affected in various ways. The downturn in oil revenues have been, impacted our economy considerably. And so we're thinking in terms of what to do to turn around the economy. We must diversify the economy. We must introduce solid governance, transparency in fiscal policy and administration. We must get our monetary policy right, and of course, relations with countries like South Africa, who are our trading partners, who are important trading partners. We must also deal with all of those issues. Then, of course, governance issues around corruption, and dealing with institutional corruption in various ways. And we're dealing with all of those. Fortunately, we have the people behind us. There's a great deal of enthusiasm, a great deal of optimism about the future in the country. And that's what we're riding on. And we hope by the grace of God that all will go well in the short term. And of course, looking forward, we think that the country has excellent prospects.
President Buhari, many people have commended his step in terms of addressing the issue of corruption. How important is this issue to address the corruption?
I think it's very important, yeah. And of course, you know that possibly one of the greatest problems, and it's not just Nigeria, across Africa, but Nigeria in particular, you know, is one of dealing with institutional corruption, especially official corruption. It has led in the past to bad policy choices. It has in some cases led to poverty, you know, and quite a few of the social problems that we have may be directly traced to corruption and lack of transparency, especially in the administration of revenues, oil revenues, and generally procurements and all of those kinds of things, and even in economic choices. So it's a very big problem. It's a very big issue. And we think that if we're able to address the questions of corruption, if we're able to control corruption and eventually eradicate it, it will significantly boost the Nigerian economy and also the Nigerian way of life generally. We think that it's important to find a way of dealing with all of the issues associated with corruption. And that's why for President Buhari it's priority. And for those who follow the elections like yourself, you would know that this was a priority campaign promise that we will go headlong and deal with corruption. And that's exactly what the president is doing.
And finally, Vice President, the issue of Boko Haram, it's a thorny one.
Yes.
Do you think you'll win that battle?
No, without a doubt. And I think primarily, even from an ideological perspective, good will always prevail over evil. And it's clear to us that the terrorism and terrorist acts are essentially evil. As the president has said repeatedly, you cannot kill children on their beds, blow up markets and kill people of every faith, Christians, Muslims, and even those who say that there is no God, and still claim that you have some religious ideology. All that it is, it's just terrorism of the worst form. It is evil, and it cannot endure. It cannot be sustained. And we think that everyone, the entire country, is resolved to ensure that we bring an end to Boko Haram. Militarily, I think that's the easier part of it, that we will bring an end to it militarily. There's no question about that. Their forces are already degraded. But we think the more important issues and the longer term issues are some of those things that conduce to these kinds of insurgency or these kinds of terrorist activities. And a lot may have to do with social conditions of the people, you know, being able to provide jobs for the young men and women in the Northeast and across the country. Of course, you know that we have major problems on employment. So being able to give people an alternative reality, you know, a reality that gives them hope in the future, a reality that promises that the country is theirs and that the future belongs to them, especially the young people. That we think is a long-term solution to the Boko Haram question. And
thank you for your time, Vice President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.